Okay, so you went through this, and I think so many women can relate to what you're saying. It's your body changing, whether you're talking about puberty or you're talking about pregnancy or you're talking about the menopause. And I agree with you. It sounds like you were going through some stuff before that happened already. But it does throw people into a sense of a lack of control, a panic, a desperation that will lead them to try anything. And, this is what I've spent 12 years now trying to clear up with my clients, is these ridiculous approaches to dieting, whether you're talking about Atkins or you're talking about keto or now Ozempic, which a scary amount of my friends are on. And I can see celebrities that I follow all of a sudden in the last 6 months have gone from a very healthy, normal, beautiful body to being absolutely tiny. And I think we all know what's going on. But it's so you went through this. And so then how did you start to come out the other side of it? What was the turning point for you? What happened?
Well, part of it was I met my husband, actually, when I was at my very biggest. And in all our years together, he's only ever made one comment to me ever about my size. And he gave me a lot of confidence and support. And I was at university. He didn't live there. He used to come up and see me every weekend. So what I used to do was I would eat what I would call nutritiously healthy every week during the week. And on weekends, I would eat what I wanted. And I had this switch in my head that because I was giving myself permission to eat what I wanted, I didn't feel the need to binge. I just stopped binging because I didn't need to, because I knew I could have it if I wanted it. I'd already given myself permission to have that choice. And I do that a lot with my clients now, because I explain to them there is no such thing as bad food unless it's gone moldy. That's the only time it's bad. It's just food. And when you give yourself permission to have it, then it takes away that, that compulsion to eat it. When you restrict yourself from something, you have a compulsion to eat it later. That all goes. Well, actually, you have a choice. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of what I'm doing with clients now, is I'm giving them choice. Have it if you want it. Actually, I don't want it.
Let's move on from that. Can we talk a little bit about specifically kind of emotional eating, which is something a lot of my clients really, really struggle with? And I don't know, again, you can clarify this, it falls under the disordered eating bracket. But with emotional eating specifically, so many women find that they go through a hard time with work, or they go through a hard time in their marriage, or as a mother, whatever it is, and they get home or they put the kids to bed and they turn to food. And it's not a binge eating situation. It's just, I feel really down, so I'm going to eat, 4 slices of toast, for example. Now, again, I don't necessarily think there's anything really wrong with that. I think it's very human. But when clients are trying to lose, let's say 10 pounds for health reasons, for very, very real health reasons, and this is something that they're really struggling to knock on the head, how do you tackle it with your clients?
Okay, the first thing is I absolutely agree with you. Everybody emotionally eats, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I think, again, when it starts to be your only tool to get through the stress, that's when it becomes more of an issue. So what I try and do with my clients is, again, I'm talking to them. A lot of people actually don't even know what they're feeling. And I think the first step is actually, can you identify what the emotion is that's led to the 4 pieces of toast? Because let's say it's stress, and you eat the 4 pieces of toast, it might delay it for a little bit, but then you're still going to feel the stress afterwards. And on top of that, you often feel frustration, guilt, shame, all the emotions that come with that emotional eating. So what I sometimes try and do is, if people can identify what's going on, say, okay, what is a better way of dealing with that stress? Is it that you just, if you've got a garden, or you're able to, go outside with a cup of tea, even and just sit somewhere? Is it that you could phone a friend? Is it that actually, if I have a bath and light some candles, that's going to help me with that stress and I'm going to feel a little bit better? But what I always say is, it's not about eating the toast. If you do that, if you can delay it for a bit with whatever works for you, and then ask yourself, well, actually, do I still want that toast? And if you want that toast, have that toast, enjoy that toast. I do have, the only rule that I ever give anybody is about how you eat, not what you eat. So, for example, you've been stressed, you go and have a bath, you still want that piece of toast, but maybe you don't need the 4. Give yourself permission to have it, but make it a royal occasion. Sit at the table, put a podcast on. People talk about mindful eating. It's really boring on your own, eating with nothing. But it's really important to eat with awareness. So you can put a podcast or the radio on, but no television, because how many times have you eaten some chocolate in front of the television and you think, oh, where's that gone? So you've got to eat with awareness. You've got to eat it slowly. And if you're going to eat that toast, at least get some enjoyment out of it. So that's my only rule. Sit at the table, make it a royal occasion, nibble it, eat it slowly, etc. And then usually that one piece of toast is enough because it's satisfied the comfort. You've given yourself the choice to eat it, and it's not got that compulsion again.
I love that. I think it's such a good point. And something I use with my clients a lot is pause, take a pause and reflect. Like you say, okay, what is the emotion? Where is the stress coming from? And actually, even just the act of reflecting, that in itself takes over the action of then overeating. And you actually get more from it afterwards. My business partner, Emma, she loves journaling. She's a really big fan of journaling. So she's like, sit down and journal on it. Now, I journal for different reasons than that. Like, that's not really my approach to it. You know, as she said, we're all different and we all deal with things differently. So I journal, but not in that kind of sense, not in that kind of reflective sense. But I love what you say there about like, it's going to be much more beneficial for you if you identify what this emotion is. And fine, okay, that might take some work, but you're actually going to really benefit from it in the long run versus this like short kind of knee-jerk response, which, as you say, is now going to add to your stress because it doesn't align with your goals. I really love that. Let's talk about you and kind of your approach as a professional in this area. So I know you talk a lot about eat, feel, grow, and heal, which you say are all the areas that you need to work on individually in order to be able to change your kind of negative or destructive eating behaviors. So can you talk us through eat, feel, grow, heal?
They're my 4 building blocks of change. Now, it's not all about the food so much when we think about how we behave around food. We think it's the food itself that is keeping us stuck. The food is important, but it's not the only area. So there are certain things when I talk about food, my eat building block. Yes, nutrition is the core and we need to get that straight, but we don't need to be perfect. A lot of people who struggle with their eating are perfectionists because they make rules for themselves about how they're going to eat and then they can't stick to them. And then they've broken these rules and that sort of can keep the way that they're eating alive. Our brains are wired to keep our body alive. And we need nourishment to be able to do that most of the time. So yes, I don't make anybody eat 3 meals a day if they really don't like 3 meals, but I do actually say that 3 meals is better because we have our blood sugar. Cravings, mood swings, lethargy are the way that our brain communicates to us their need. And we need to have a balanced approach to eating to help with all of that and to make sure that we're getting the variety of nutrients that we need. So, for example, when you're not getting all the nutrients, your brain is going to be driving you to eat because it wants to make sure that you get these nutrients. But your brain can't say to you, okay, I want you to have liver, for example, because you're missing vitamin A. It just tells you to eat. And if you eat the wrong stuff, as in when I say wrong, it's not providing these nutrients, it's going to say, no, we need more. And it's going to drive you to have more.
A lot of my clients will change their diets, like I say, under my coaching, which I do very responsibly and with everything that Lisa and I are talking about today in mind, always, very watchful eye. A lot of them will, in a really positive way, coming from a really positive place of self-love, not hatred, change their diet, start taking care of themselves. And unfortunately, a lot of them get really negative commentary back from friends and family. And while I completely agree that it is really important and why I'm asking Lisa this question, to keep an eye on people and kind of be aware what to look for and I hope Lisa will touch on this better than me because I'm not well schooled in this, but how to deal with it. There's also such a thing as like, if somebody's getting healthy, that you should be supportive. And I ask anyone listening or any of my clients who might be a victim of this to just kind of be a bit introspect for a minute and ask yourself, am I doing this from a place of self-love? Am I doing this in a healthy way? Am I taking care of my body and my mental health as I do this? And if the answers to both of those are yes, you have nothing to worry about. And those comments should be like a water off a duck's back. And if the answer is no, then hopefully everything we're saying today is going to help you. What to look for and what to do if you think someone's struggling with it.
This isn't in isolation. It's not like they have one behavioral sign or one psychological sign. It's an overall picture. So I think there are certain areas. So the first one is behaviorally. If you notice, for example, that people are becoming obsessed, like really obsessed over what they're eating, that, no, I can't possibly eat that. There's a real stress factor to it. I think if they're showing a rigidity, a dietary rigidity that can never be broken. But yeah, if there's secretive behavior, like if you notice that every time after they've eaten, for example, they disappear into the bathroom for half an hour, or they're always tired and exhausted, extreme exercising, but not like it's great to exercise, to move, especially if you love it. But it's more that, no, I can't have dinner tonight. I've got to go to the gym. It's that sort of obsession, really obsession with it. So those are a few behavioral signs. And then we have the psychological signs, which could be a really extreme distorted body image, extreme mood swings, because if they're not getting any of the nourishment they need, their mood can go up and down. And an obsessive fear of gaining weight that you notice. And a really big one, I think, is social withdrawal. If you're really trying either not to eat or binging all the time, you don't want to be with other people. All of this has a real impact on your daily life. So if you're noticing that they're preoccupied with food all the time, as I said, that it's interfering with regular activities, they're closing down socially, they're not seeing anybody. And as I said, not everybody will show all these symptoms. An eating disorder, as I mentioned before, is just individual. They come in various forms and they may not fit particularly into one category. What to do about them is, first of all, remember that an eating disorder is a serious mental illness. It's not a win, and it's not anyone's fault. So often somebody with an eating disorder will deny that they have it, or they don't realize that there's a problem, but it doesn't mean that they're not ill. So the first thing to do, if you're worried about somebody, is approach them with compassion and kindness. Don't sort of go in and say, I think you've got an eating disorder, because they will immediately close down. One of the best things to do is actually inform yourself about eating disorders first. And there's loads of websites that give a lot of information on what you should be looking at. But remember to express your concerns to this person without blame or without judgment. And really just, do you really want to know that they're okay? Are you okay? Show them compassion, kindness, and explain why you're concerned. So I've noticed that you're not seeing your friends anymore, or I've noticed that you don't want to eat with us anymore. Don't give them a list of 20 things, because again, that's really overwhelming. They're not going to be able to listen to that. And don't react if they get angry or defensive. Remember, this is a mental illness, okay? So one of the things you could do is just encourage them to get some support. Say, would you like me to come with you? Would you like me to help you make an appointment? But I'm really concerned about you, and I think it would be beneficial maybe if you could get some extra support. But don't be discouraged if they don't want it. It's a mental illness. I know I can't stress that enough. Don't be discouraged. Maybe try again in a couple of weeks. So those are the main things. Their behaviours, if you notice their thoughts, and their new eating patterns. Those are the three main areas that you're looking at.